final segment, and we're back. You're listening to America's Voice Now. I'd like for you to have a piece of paper and a pen handy when you listen to our programs because we give out information, and I want to hear from you. I'd like you to take notes about something that you agree or disagree with, and then give me the feedback on it by sending me an email. You can email me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. And tell me, I agree, I disagree. Here's where I found a fault with your argument. Here's something I agreed with. Here's something I disagreed with, and here's why. The one thing I don't want you to do is to send me a YouTube video link that says, here, watch this. Because truthfully, folks, I probably get 20 of those a day. I don't watch them because I can't. If I spent all day doing that, I would accomplish nothing else. If you want to tell me something, you've got to send it to me with your argument, your reasoning, your belief system, your rationale, your well-thought-out reasoning and argument. I want to hear the critical thinking that you have expelled and you have exposed so that you can really tell me what you've determined. Don't tell me what somebody else has told you to think. Tell me what you think and tell me why you think that. I'll respond to you. I always do to those. But when you send me a link that says, here, watch this video, forget it. I'm not going there. I just don't have the time, the physical time. I've got to make a living too, and it's not doing this. I can assure you of that. Not to mention the fact that that doesn't tell me that you've learned anything or that you're teaching me something. And I'm certainly willing to learn. But I'm only going to learn when I have a real clear, lucid, well-reasoned argument to represent that position. All right, this last topic is one that you need to be aware of. I actually took the time to print the 2014 National Defense Authorization Act is out there. And Congress is trying to rush this through, like they always do. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a very, very, very dangerous addition. They've added a brand new section, a brand new area. Now, for the record, if you're new to the NDAA or you're new to America's Voice or you're new to this whole world and you're coming awake from your slumber, the original 2012 National Defense Authorization Act had a section that allows the federal government to detain Americans and foreigners, of course, but I'm predominantly concerned about Americans, to detain American citizens indefinitely without access to the court, without access to an attorney and legal counsel, and without even notification that you've been detained by them. In other words, they can snatch you off the street and hold you in detention, and your family wouldn't even know what happened to you. And you don't have access to a lawyer to go to court and say, hey, wait a second, stop, you guys have it all wrong, I didn't do this. And their definition of what you can be held for is for the commitment of a belligerent act. And the belligerent act is not identified. They were given repeated opportunities to repeal this and didn't. In 2013, they added more onerous angles to it. And here's the final rub. And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be your proof that explains what all the NSA spying, what all the surveillance, what all the FBI spying is on your phones, your emails, your records, your contacts, your internet surfing, all of this monitoring that's going on, public, private, and otherwise. Here we go. They've created a new section called 1071. And it's under subtitle G. This is an 1,100-page document, folks. Miscellaneous authorities and limitations. Miscellaneous authorities and limitations. So what they're doing is they're burying this somewhere in the back, hoping nobody finds it. And here's what it says. This is an enhancement of the capacity of the United States government to analyze, and I want you to be very, very cognizant now of the language that they're using, because this is legalese personified. To analyze captured records. Notice the word captured and records. Now, for the record, I want you to know, going into this, that the United States of America, in the 2012 and 2013 NDAAs, was declared to be part of the War on Terror battlefield. The battleground is now the United States. We're incorporated into the global war on terror, and the United States is considered, in writing, to be part of the battlefield. And so when you're going to understand what that means as you hear some of what's going to happen today. They're creating a new thing called the Conflict Record Research Center. And this is by the Department of Defense. The Secretary of Defense may establish a center to be known as the Conflict Record Research Center. The purpose of this is the following. 1, to establish a digital research database, including translations. That could be verbal translations of a foreign language, but it can also be a translation of your phone calls and your emails from a speech to text. Remember now, you're dealing with lawyers, and they're leaving this language very ambiguous and very, very vague so that they can really hammer you down later. Listen to this. To establish a digital research database, including translations, and to facilitate research and analysis of records captured from countries, organizations, here it comes, and individuals. And here's the phrase they're going to start using now. This is the new catchphrase. Now or once hostile to the United States. With rigid adherence to academic freedom and integrity. And they don't define any of this, by the way. Now, I'm going to tell you, they do define at the back of this what a record constitutes. And let's go to that and then I'll come back to this. This thing is 5 pages, and I've only highlighted those areas that are pertinent. The definition. This is page 489, line 21. The term captured record means a document, audio file, video file, or other material captured during combat operations. And remember, we are now in the battlefield on the war on terror, right? So the U.S. is the part of the combat zone. So during combat operations, which would mean anything that they captured, let's say, as a result of what happened in Boston with the Boston bombing. Let's use that as the example, right? The term captured record means a document, an audio file, a video file, or other material. What is that other material? Metadata from your cell phone. Perfect example. Your internet searching and a record of where you've traveled around the internet, and all the stories you've read, all the articles you've read, all the places you've visited. Or other material, that's what falls up underneath other material, captured during combat operations from countries, organizations, here it comes again, or individuals, now or once hostile to the United States. Now or once hostile to the United States is the extension of the belligerent act. Okay? So in other words, by your committing a belligerent act, you are now or were once hostile to the United States. This gets even uglier. Consistent with the protection of national security information. This is the second bullet. I hope I've got enough time to wrap this thing today. Consistent with the protection of national security information, personally identifiable information, that means they know who you are, and intelligence sources and methods, spying, the internet searching, the capturing of your phone calls, the metadata records, all of that, right? To make a significant portion of these records available to researchers as quickly and responsibly as possible, while taking into account the integrity of the academic process and risks to innocent or third parties. So first of all, they now introduce the concept of researchers. They're going to hand this information, your personal information, and it's personally identifiable, to researchers. Who might those researchers be? It gets even worse. Item 3, to conduct and disseminate, that means disperse around, research and analysis to increase the understanding of factors related to international relations, counter-terrorism, and conventional and unconventional warfare, and ultimately enhance national security. That is not a mouthful, ladies and gentlemen. That is volumes. To conduct and disseminate research and analysis to increase the understanding of factors that are related to international relations, counterterrorism, conventional and unconventional warfare, and ultimately enhance national security. So they're going to build these massive dossiers and databases on every American. Then they're going to cherry pick who might or might not have been classified as an individual that would be, where's the phrase they use? Shucks. The phrase they use is now or in the past hostile, right? So, okay, hang on a second, because this gets even uglier. Item 4. And here's where you're going to start seeing how the progressive left has captured this process to build an enemies list. 4, to collaborate with members of academic, and broad national security communities. Broad national security community. That can mean anything and anybody. That's the NRO, the NSA, the FBI, the DHS. The list goes on and on and on. To collaborate with members of academic and broad national security communities, both domestic and international, on research, so your information can be shared with a foreign government, including the GCHQ, the NSA for England, as an example. On research, conferences, seminars, and other information exchanges. I mean, folks, that's a loophole big enough to drive a tractor trailer through. To identify topics of importance for the leadership of the United States government and the scholarly community. Here's where you're going to understand what all of that means. This is so evil. It is beyond comprehension. So now, they can collaborate with members of academic and broad national security committees, both domestic and international. They can do research, conferences, seminars, and information exchange to identify topics of importance for the leadership of the U.S. government and the scholarly community, right? Concurrence of the Director of National Intelligence. This is the guy who runs the NSA. The Secretary of Defense shall seek the concurrence of the Director of National Intelligence to the extent the efforts and activities of the center involve the entities referred to in Section B4. Now, Section B4 is who are these members that they can collaborate with academically and domestic and international on research conferences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Item 4, it's not 4. Item 2D. Here's where they embroil the rest of the government into this. Support from other United States government departments and agencies. The head of any non-Department of Defense department or agency of the United States government may. So let's understand who that is. The head of any non-Department of Defense department or agency of the United States government may. So that incorporates everything from the EPA folks to the FCC to the FAA to the Banana Boat Republic. Okay. They're incorporating everything in here so that they can widely share and disseminate all of your information and anybody who is considered to be either now or prior hostile to the United States of America. Based on what? Your belligerent act. Support from other United States government departments. The head of any non-Department of Defense department or agency of the United States government may, 1, provide to the Secretary of Defense services, including personnel support, to support the operations of the center, So they can kick employees over to them and say, here, this employee is on loan to you. And 2, transfer funds to the Secretary of Defense to support the operations of the center. So their budgets can be subverted, even though it's the USDA. They can take some of their budget and funnel it into this. It's a black ops money wash is what it is. Here's where it gets really ugly. Acceptance of gifts and donations. Excuse me? Gifts and donations? When do we run black ops and intelligence operations on gifts and donations? Oh, you're going to find out in a second. 1. Subject to paragraph 3, the Secretary of Defense may accept from any source specified in paragraph 2 any gift or donation for purposes of defraying the costs or enhancing the operations of the center. The sources specified in this paragraph are as follows. This is item 2. These are the qualified sources that may donate money to help defray the costs or enhance the operations. The government of a state or a political subdivision of a state. So your state can submit what? Your tax records, your real ID records, all of the stuff that ordinarily the federal government wouldn't have access to because it's a state-owned intelligence document, not to mention money. B, the government of a foreign country. So that means that the GCHQ can spy on Americans, and the NSA can say, we didn't spy on Americans. And then the GCHQ can take that information and give it over as a gift to the American government, who can then use it as they will. C, wait until you hear this one. This one's the rub. A foundation or other charitable organization, including a foundation or charitable organization that is organized or operates under the laws of a foreign country. You know who that is? The first thing that jumped into my mind, political action committees. Leftist money from groups like Sierra Club, Soros. So George Soros could be funding our national security NDAA record system. D, any source in the private sector of the United States or a foreign country. Any source. Not a foundation or other charitable organization, just period, any source. That includes everything. There's nothing that's not covered under any source in the private sector of the United States or a foreign country. A private source could be Sheikh Abdullah. Okay, here's their caveat now. The Secretary may not accept a gift or donation under this subsection if the acceptance of the gift or donation would compromise or appear to compromise, quote, 1, the ability of the Department of Defense, any employee of the department, or any member of the armed forces from carrying out the responsibility or duty of the department in a fair and objective manner. That's up to their discretion, of course, so. B, the integrity of any program of the department or of any person involved in such a program. So if it compromises the integrity of any program of the department or of any person involved in such a program, they have the right to say we don't want the money. But it doesn't say they can. It just says the Secretary may not accept a gift. It doesn't say shall not. It says may not, which means it's entirely up to the Secretary's discretion. Item 4. The Secretary shall provide written guidance setting forth the criteria to be used in determining the applicability of paragraph 3 of any proposed gift or donation. The Secretary shall provide written guidance putting forth the criteria for any gift or donation. Okay. Here's the rub, and here's where you got to get a hold of this thing. By the way, the term gift or donation can mean this. The term gift or donation means any gift or donation of funds, materials, including research materials, that's the data, real or personal property, that's the data that they've gotten through violating your Fourth Amendment, or it's the sneak and peek stuff they stole out of your house or your business, or services, including lecture services and faculty services. That's what constitutes a gift. So here's the deal. What you're going to have is these leftist progressive groups, including groups that come out of the United Nations, and they lobby us for Agenda 21 and so forth and so on. They're going to be able to donate to this and share in the information. The term captured record, I want you to understand this again. The term captured record means a document. That's physical property, right? That was covered under the last definition I just told you about, which was the gift or the donation of materials and real or personal property. The term captured record, so they capture the record in a foreign country and they can turn it over to the United States as a piece of real property or personal property or material. The captured record means a document, an audio file, a video file, or other material. Another material could be anything, folks, captured during combat operations from countries, organizations, or individuals now or once hostile to the United States. Since the war on terror in 2012's NDAA incorporated the entire physical geographic United States of America into the new combat zone, what does that tell you? Because now all they have to do is claim that these records were captured during a combat operation from a country, an organization, or an individual that was now or once hostile to the United States, anywhere in the combat zone in the war on terror, which is entirely the entire planet. There's no place that's not considered part of it. That came from the mouth directly of the original 2012 NDAA. I got to tell you, folks, where we are headed with this and what this is for. This explains to you what they're doing with all the data they're collecting. You've heard me say it many times before, that they are building dossiers on you to develop and create enemy lists, to identify who is for and who is against them, to find out who is a rabble-rouser, to find out who is a problem, to silence voices of dissent, to silence voices of opposition. And this is the means by which that will be accomplished. This is the vehicle that will get them from point A to point B. Now, I know there are people who are going to say, Evans, you're reading way too much into that. I'm sorry, you're absolutely, unequivocally wrong. This was written by lawyers, for lawyers, so that they would have the broadest opportunity to find as many massive loopholes to incorporate and utilize this in any way, shape, and form that they can, and that they choose to, now and in the future. The truth of the matter is, if I'm wrong, all you've got to do is look at how they define the Commerce Clause. All you've got to do is look at how they've defined the constitutional statement of the Welfare Clause. I'm not wrong. And I get it. You may disagree with me. You may say, this guy is wearing a tinfoil hat 1.5 inches thick. Okay. But I am going to tell you this. At some point in the fairly near future, we're going to find out who's right. And I'll bet you money it ain't you. The truth is, the National Defense Authorization Act prohibits the most heinous, the most unconstitutional, the most authoritarian and dictatorial actions on American citizens. No one has given a plausible or reasonable explanation for how Americans are not involved and incorporated into this. And I'm going to tell you something. This turns America into a fascist dictatorship. The pieces are coming together, slowly but surely, building, piling, mounding, molding, shaping. You're only going to believe it when they come for you. But mark my words, one day they'll come for you. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. This is the end of our program for the day and the end of the program the weekend. I would like very much for you to share this segment with anyone and everyone. I don't care if you sit down with 5 buddies and over a beer and listen to this and then have a discussion about it amongst yourselves. Get this information out. Contact me with your opinion and your ideas on it at Mike at americasvoicenow.org. We'll see you tomorrow.